Okay, good morning, everyone. All right. Okay. We'll start. Mesilat Yesharim, as I wrote on the email, that this will be our last year for this year, this Jewish calendar year, or actually Yeshiva year. We'll begin, we'll resume our shiurim as of next Hebrew month, meaning Elul, which will be August 28th. Aleph Elul, the second Rosh Chodesh, second day of Rosh Chodesh of Elul. That's when we come back. I'll write a note as we get closer to remind everyone. Okay, so we're in the course of the Mesilat Yesharim first. We're in the middle of chapter 1, first chapter, after finishing the introduction. Yeah, we're up to V'im Ta'amikot Ba'inyan. We saw last week that Mesilat Yesharim tells us that our main goal in our lifetime is to strengthen our relationship with Hashem as best as we can and be as close as we can to Hashem. As we said last week, it doesn't mean that we elevate ourselves and climb up somewhere higher and higher. It means we prepare ourselves for Ashrat Shechina, for Hashem to dwell within us. Hashem comes down to us rather than us going up to Him. And that is by refraining from all sins, having midot tovos, fulfilling all the commandments of Hashem, all the mitzvot, learning Torah. That's how we prepare ourselves to be a vessel to receive the Shechina. Otherwise, the Shechina cannot dwell within us. If we're not behaving as we should, then we don't get to Dveikus. Okay, then we'll continue from here. והנה שמו הקדוש ברוך הוא לאדם במקום שרבים בו המרחיקים אותו ממנו יתברך. Hashem placed us in this world, which has many, many obstacles. We're confronted and challenged by many obstacles in this world that block our way to be close with Hashem. Our relationship with Hashem is less and less, is more and more difficult to reach. And what are those obstacles? Vehem hem ata'avot hachomriyot. Asher yimamashech achreihen, hinehu mitrachek ve'olech min hatov ha'amiti. The physical temptations, materialistical temptations that draw us to go after them, those are the ones that take us further and further away from ultimate good. It may seem to us pleasures and good feeling gives us good feelings. It makes us feel good, but it's only momentary for the moment. It's not the ultimate good. Tova Amiti, the true, real good, is only when we cling to Hashem, only when we refrain from going after materialistical pleasure and enjoyment. Although I must add, we spoke about it in our Shabbos table Friday night, there's a little, there should be a difference, and there is a difference between the style of life that a person may conduct in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel, versus Chutz La'aretz. It may not seem so today because it looks like almost the opposite, but it should be this way, that to lead a life that has, that you're blessed with enough possessions and money to lead a comfortable life, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with having a nice home and nice furniture and a nice car and nice food. In Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, it's even almost a mitzvah, or maybe even an actual mitzvah. The famous Chasam Sofer, I think I mentioned him more than once in this class, in Sukkah Lamed Vav, Sukkah 36, where he explains on his commentary on the Shas, he explains that here in Israel, mitzvahs yeshuv Eretz Israel, the fact that we must settle the land, it's a mitzvah to settle this land, includes the fact that we make this land a beautiful country, successful country, in materialistical areas as well. He says to go out and be farmers and all other occupations. He says, if shar af shar u'manayotu ken, is a mitzvah. To show, it's actually Kiddush Hashem, to show the world that Hashem's people in their land, their homeland, have a nice style of life. They are, they live nicely. They have sophisticated materialistical inventions and high-level scientific findings and technology. It brings a big Kiddush Hashem. The Jewish nation in their homeland provide so much knowledge and so much progress to the rest of the world. So that's perfectly fine, as long as you're not chasing after materialism for the sake of materialism. It's not something that you're looking for to fill your life with. It's something you need for your comfort, just to be comfortable. And then you spend most of the day, most of your time, or at least not necessarily quantity-wise, but quality-wise, you stress the time you have for learning every day, or the mitzvot you carry out every day with full kavanah. Your tefillot have kavanah in them. Your mitzvot are with full kavanah. You do them with all the details of halachic details that were meant to. All this is the style of life that's perfectly fine in Israel. In Chutz La'aretz, it may not be so, as this Chasam Sofer differentiates between Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz. He says in Chutz La'aretz, all you really need is to exist. There's nothing more than that to take part in. The rest of your time there in Chutz La'aretz, as long as you have your parnasa, your minimum parnasa that allows you to live, to survive, all the rest should be learning Torah. Have simple homes, simple car, just what you need, and that's enough. Anyone who goes beyond that in Chutz La'aretz is not fulfilling any mitzvah whatsoever. That's completely that's completely being drawn by materialism in the Chutz La'aretz. There's nothing else to it but materialism. That's what the Chasam Sofer tells us. So,
the mitzvah is building up the land.
Right.
Here you're building up the land.
Right.
Not building up the land.
Exactly. There's no point in building America or building France or building Morocco. It's your minimum to exist, to survive. And that's it. All the rest spend time learning and doing mitzvahs. But it's sometimes we find it almost opposite. That there they have all their luxurious homes and luxurious cars and luxurious other material parts of life. And here it's a little bit less, it's more scarce to find. And slowly but surely, we're climbing up the ladder of quality. Oh yeah, here in Israel?
People that have money.
Because I was told they have acres and acres of land there, and here they're much smaller homes than what they've got there.
Guess what? Our smaller homes, those acres of land are worth more money than their acres.
Okay, that could be. That could be they're worth more money, but tachlis, your life is more smaller scale.
Live in a fancier neighborhood.
Yeah. So it makes the home smaller.
$1 million buys much more food than does an
Wow. Okay, but whatever. Without comparing, this is the message that we take from here. And then, based on this is something that may sound even like almost like kfira, but I'm going to say it anyhow. We find many times that when big rabbis, Dolei Ador, pass away, mainly in the Haredi world, we find that they're one of the main points that people stress and talk about and are so amazed at is that such rabbis living till 100 years old or even over or close to, their whole life, they lived a very simple life. They had a very small apartment, 2.5 rooms for 10 children, and barely had anything in the apartment. And the furniture was old furniture. They take pictures and they show how the gadol used to live on an old bed with barely a mattress and broken chairs and all that. It's definitely something to respect, highly respect that they were able to lead such a life of total spirituality, total connection with Hashem, total Torah, mitzvos, every second of their life, and nothing to do with materialism. It's something to respect. I'm not saying it's something that's negative, but my feeling always is that that's very beautiful if we speak about Chutz La'aretz. The Gedolim that live that way in Chutz La'aretz are really doing the best and behaving in the proper way that one can in Chutz La'aretz. In Eretz Yisrael, there is a dimension that is lacking when we see such things, because these rabbis who are really on top of the line of the Jewish world, the top figures that led thousands and tens of thousands of people while they were alive, they should be living in mansions and beautiful homes to show the importance. Part of being important is having a nice home. And if we said in Eretz Yisrael, it's a mitzvah to be miyashav Eretz Yisrael, Yeshuv Eretz Yisrael is to have nice homes. So why live in such a stingy way? Again, that's taken from Galus. And sometimes in the Haredi world, they feel they're still in Galus, even in Eretz Yisrael. So for them, it's like the top way of style of life is to refrain from anything materialistical. But when we believe and feel like this is days of Geulah now, we're no longer in Galus, we're in the Geulah now. You think David HaMelech didn't live in a castle? Of course he did. He lived in a castle, like a king should. And those were days when the Jewish people had their kingdomship, and they were sovereign of their own in their own country, and led the entire world. They were examples to the entire world. Shlomo Melech, people came to him to seek his wisdom from all over the world. So if he would live in this stingy, old-looking home with barely any furniture, no one would respect his wisdom. It's part of respecting a person is that he leads a more beautiful style of life that shows, part of that shows the importance of the person. And if you want proof for this, we find that Chazal say that Ein nevuah shora el al chacham gibor ve'ashir. In order to be a prophet, which is the top level any human being can ever reach, to become a prophet, to be close as possible to Hashem. Prophecy you don't receive unless you are extra smart, rich, and strong, courageous. Now, you may think that these things that Chazal described are really midot, attributes, like the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos describes them. Ezu chacham halomed mikol adam. Who is the wise person? The one who learns from everyone. Doesn't say he has a high IQ. He learns from every person. Ezu ashir hasameach bechelko. Rich person is one who's content with what he has. Ezu gibor hakovesh et yitzro. One who battles his Yetzer Hara and defeats his Yetzer Hara. So you may think that Chazal describing the person who is entitled, who can reach that high level of nevuah, of prophecy, is the one who is Chacham Gibor V'Ashir in this meaning, in the meaning of the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, that he overcomes temptations, he learns and accepts every human being, he's content with what he has, comfortable with what he has, he doesn't chase after materialism. All that could have been true, but the Ran, in Drashas Ran, says not so. The Ran says that this literally is what it means, what it says. The nevuah, prophecy, is received by a human being who has a high IQ, who is a very smart person, and who is rich, literally. He has a lot of money, and he lives in a comfortable way, and that is strong and courageous physically. Says Iran, why would those be necessities to become a prophet? Why is that necessary? After all, who cares how much money a person has? As long as he's connected with Hashem, that's it. That's all that counts. Says Iran, this is literally, he's very right. He's very correct. As he assesses the situation. A Navi, a prophet, is a person who spoke a lot to the people. All the prophecies we have, Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, Yechezkel, they speak tons and tons and tons of messages to convey to the people. And they want their messages to be accepted. Says Iran, people respect money. People respect wisdom. People respect courage. Physically. If you see someone, if you come to a lecture of a person who is extremely successful in his monetary life. You know, he made a huge amount of money in his life and all done by himself. It wasn't money that he inherited from his parents. He did it all from scratch. He built a whole empire, a very rich person. Wouldn't you come to listen to a lecture by that person? Yeah, you would think that person has what to say. He succeeded in life. He has what to say. And if it's a very smart person and everyone knows he's a genius, wouldn't you come listen to his lecture? Because behind what he says, there are very smart, he says very smart things. And if he's a person who fought in one of the wars and did courageous things in the war, wouldn't you respect him very highly and come listen to what he has to say? It says Iran, that's what we're talking about. A Navi, in order for him to be influential on the people, he needs this background of Chacham, Gibor, Vashir, all three of them together. Plus, very important, Anav. Because if he thinks it's all homemade, it's all himself, then he's not worth much. But if he knows it's all from Hashem, but he carried out his talents and made something of himself due to what Hashem gave him, equipped him with, that's something tremendous. And everyone would like to listen to such a person. It's a top individual type of person. So going back to the Mesilat Yesharim, true that ta'avot and chomriyut, temptations and materialism take you away from Hashem, but it all depends. Why are you possessing all that you've got? If it's just for the sake of a comfortable life, then true, that takes you away from Hashem. You can't really be connected in spiritual. But if it all is part of your spiritual life, if you have these possessions because you're living in Eretz Israel, you believe in the fact that making this country the best quality of life possible, then it shows Kiddush Hashem, that Hashem's land and people are so successful and their quality of life is so high. And you believe that if you're successful monetarily or physically or in any other way, then people will respect you for it and listen to what you have to say. And all your messages will be on the spiritual side of life. You'll try to convince people to become more and more religious and more fulfilling and following mitzvot, then why not? Then it's perfectly fine. That's not considered being drawn by temptation and taken away from Hashem. On contrary, you're coming closer and closer to Hashem by being such an individual. You may even get to the point of prophecy if you keep on climbing and striving higher and higher. So it all depends on the reason behind the ta'avot and the chomriyut, behind the materialism, the style of life that you want to carry out. And then our Gdolim, there's nothing wrong if our Gdolim live in a beautiful home, because that's what they deserve. And they don't take it as materialism. They're not enjoying it just materialistically. They're showing what Torah really means. Torah means a person who's comfortable, has a comfortable life, style of life, and yet is involved and engaged in Torah and mitzvahs all the time. That's what we would expect to see. It's a total flip over of our understanding and realization of the time of Geulah and the living in Eretz Israel, how different it is than it should have been in Chutz La'aretz. There, it's really materialistically worthless to make a lot of money and have beautiful homes. That's complete materialism.
Well, how do you verify this? I'm a little confused, so it may not come across well. So you have somebody who is an unknown, and he realizes that he's built himself, and he's blessed with all of these factors.
Right.
And Hashem continues to bless him with these factors because he realizes that he's not going to get lost. He doesn't get lost.
Exactly.
Then a person who is not an unknown, and yet is all these things, he's brilliant, he's wealthy, and
Courageous. Yeah.
But it's given to him not because he's an unknown, and by definition, he's the opposite.
Right.
So how does that work? You know what I'm saying? In other words,
why does Hashem provide all this?
Yeah, in other words,
to a person who really
this
isn't?
Is probably that's the $24,000 question, whatever it is. Why do we think something about it? Is that what we're saying? Because in other words, what you're saying makes sense. A person who's an unknown would be blessed with all those things. A person who's the opposite, how is he blessed with all those things? Where's that coming from?
So it's like you said, it's what the Mesilat Yesharim is talking about right now. It's nisyonos. Hashem puts obstacles in front of him because he's not an anav. Because he thinks he's smart, he thinks he's wealthy, he thinks it's all homemade. Then Hashem continues to provide him with all these talents and things to have obstacles.
So at some point, maybe it'll dawn on him.
Exactly. He may in the end collapse and fall, and there'll be a terrible loss. He'll lose a lot of money because he wasn't behaving properly with all that he received, all these gifts Hashem gave him. He didn't pay gratitude to Hashem. He thought it's all himself. In the end, he may collapse. And even if he doesn't, in the world to come, he'll be swiped of all good fortune. So yeah, these are Hashem plays both ways. Hashem gives rewards to those who deserve, and even sometimes not. You could also ask the flip side question: how is it possible that there are people who are anavim, true anavim, and they don't have much money, and they're poor? We have that too. We can't help it. We can't, just because you're an anav, it doesn't mean you'll have all these means. So again, Hashem is, we don't know why he does this to people, but to some people he confronts with challenges, even though they deserve really to have all the possessions, everything in life. He wants to make them even more truthful to their belief that it's all from Hashem, and that they'll continue praying for Hashem's help. And maybe eventually he'll provide them with all these, maybe not, maybe only in Olam Haba they'll receive all the good fortune that they deserve. Those who aren't acting properly may receive everything in this world, may not. We don't know the way it all works. We have to do our share in following Hashem, following his ways, no matter what, no matter if we receive all these good things or we don't. It doesn't matter. That's not, success isn't dependent on us. That's totally from Hashem. We need to work hard and make as much progress as we can in our lifetime. Success is up to Hashem, not up to us. And we shouldn't be dependent on success with regards to how much we do, how much we work hard to worship Hashem. Nothing to do with each other. It's disconnected. That's something that many people don't realize. They think it's one for one. If we're good, Hashem should give us what we deserve. It's almost like Rav Elisha Vishlitsky that Tzal always used to say, Hashem isn't a kaspomat, the ATM machine, right? Hashem is not an ATM machine that you put in your card and you get what you want. It doesn't happen that way. Hashem is a little bit more sophisticated than that. He knows where to give, where not to give, who to give to, who not to give to. And in the end, we all get what we deserve, for the good and for the bad. It's all perfectly calculated. We just don't necessarily understand, but that's fine. If we were to understand Hashem's ways, we would be him. And since we're not him and we can't be him, we don't understand his ways. And so the Navi Yeshayahu says, the Prophet Yeshayahu says, Hilo machshavotay machshavotechem, velo derechechem derechai neum Hashem. Your ideas, your thoughts, your understandings are not mine. Your ways aren't mine. We have different ways of thinking. Hashem is divine, holy, abstract, and above all. And we're human, where we have our boundaries of how much we can understand in our lifetime. That really, based on what Sandra just said, that really is the deep meaning of lishma. To fulfill Torah mitzvos lishma. That's the deep meaning of it. Lishma means for the sake of fulfilling the mitzvot, without expecting anything beyond the fact that we fulfill Hashem's mitzvot. We're just fulfilling his commandments. That's lishma. That's the highest level of worshiping Hashem. Lo lishma means for the sake of gaining some. You're fulfilling mitzvot because this and that. The moment you have that because, you're not doing lishma. You're not on the highest level of just fulfill Torah mitzvahs because you were commanded to do so. That's it. No, nothing to expect to gain. You gain a lot, but don't do it because you're expecting to gain something on any level possible. To gain kavod, respect, to gain money, to gain help, doesn't matter what. Anything you're doing in order to gain is already not lishma. It's a lower level of, still the Torah, the Gemara says, לעולם יעסוק אדם בתורה מצוות שלא לשמה, שמתוך שלא לשמה בא לשמה. It's still better to fulfill Torah mitzvot שלא לשמה than not at all, of course. Because from the lishma, it may develop into lishma. In the end, you'll realize that just Torah mitzvot per se is so much. It's so fulfilling, and you feel so fulfilled. You feel so happy with yourself that that's enough. You don't need anything further than that. And by the way, feeling happiness while fulfilling Torah mitzvot is still considered lishma. Don't ever think that you're supposed to feel miserable, and that's considered lishma. Otherwise, if you feel happy and content, that's shelo lishma, because you're gaining something. That's the famous Eglei Tal, the introduction to the book Eglei Tal, written by Avram of Sochatshov, the Sochatshov Rebbe, who was the Avnei Nezer also. He wrote a few books very important in Torah. His son was the Shem Shmuel, the book written on the Parshias of the Torah. So the father, the Eglei Tal, in his introduction wrote that there was a rabbi who approached him once and said that he tries not to feel too good when he learns Torah. He says if he feels happy learning Torah, he feels it's lo lishma, because he has a gain from learning Torah. Says the Eglei Tal, totally wrong. The exact opposite. If you want to test yourself, are you learning Torah lishma? Try to feel if you're happy while you're learning. If you are, that means you're learning Torah lishma, because it's an automatic feeling that develops in a person who's learning Torah lishma. He feels so content, so fruitful, so accomplished with himself because he's at the highest level of learning Torah, and it makes him happy. It's an automatic consequence. It's not that he's using Torah in order to feel happy. He's learning Torah because he's meant to learn Torah. We're meant to learn Torah every moment of our lives, if possible. You're not trying to gain anything from it. People should admire you and respect you and worship you and give you money and all that. You're not aiming for that at all. You're aiming to fulfill Hashem's commandment, learn Torah. And by doing so, your neshama is so pleased. You're doing the best thing possible for yourself, so you feel happy. What's wrong with that? It's perfectly fine. That's what the Eglei Tal says. But that's the maximum, not to try to gain anything else besides fulfilling Hashem's words and being happy because it makes you happy. That's it. Okay, so all this is a little bit of a deviation from the actual words of the Mesilat Yesharim, but I just felt that sometimes we read such Musar books, so we feel we have to live a stingy life, a very poor style life, and that's the best. That's what we're worshiping Hashem, because we're staying far away from any materialistical gain and any materialistical draw, day by day. But that's not true, again, mainly in Israel, where we should be leading a comfortable life, a nice life, because this is the country Hashem promised us. And He asked for us to build this country as best as we can, with the quality of life as highest standard possible. That's the mitzvah that Hashem said, V'yirishta v'yashavta ba. Conquer this land and settle it. And settle it nicely, beautifully. That's the biggest Kiddush Hashem possible.
But it's a dynamic. In other words, a person could have all this nice stuff in Eretz Yisrael and then get lost.
True.
And then it's his responsibility to then go back and refrain and get back to the...
Correct. To the more spiritual way of of
Because
receiving
it says that in the Torah, you're going to get back.
Right,
It's the same
exactly.
exact thing. It's like,
Exactly. The Torah warns us that since the style of life in Israel should be the one that's more plentiful and you have more luxuries, as not because you're looking for them, but because it's a nice style of life, it's a high standard of living, which we should be living so in this country, then be careful that it doesn't take you away to actually be more materialistic.
interesting, isn't it?
Yes, right. Exactly. That's the next line of the Mesilat Yesharim. ונמצא שהוא מושם באמת בתוך מלחמה חזקה. Says in Mesilat Yesharim, Hashem put us in this world to battle. There's a war all the time. That's exactly that dynamic he spoke about. It's a tug of war. The Yetzer Hara and the materialism is pulling you one way. Like, leave all that Torah, mitzvahs, get rid of all that. Just enjoy life. Like it blinks to you and says, come with me. You'll see how fun it is. And on the other side, the Yetzer Tov is tugging and pulling to make sure you stay within. Even though you're leading a more materialistic life because it's L'Shem Shamayim, it's Lishma, but it's dangerous. So it's pulling you strongly towards spirituality, towards being worshiping Hashem all the time in the proper way and having the right mindset of how come I have all these possessions and I have a nice life. So it's a tug of war. You're always in this war. You can never feel, I'm done. I'm in the right place now. You never feel so. It's always gonna try it. The Yetzer Hara has tachbulot, strategies, right? That no matter how high you climb, it's gonna be there also. It's not gonna stay weak and low. It's always, as you climb, it climbs with you. Endless.
see that it's like there's such a Yetzer Hara that wants to say it's over already. I've had enough of this.
Yeah,
You know
right.
what I'm saying? I want to. This is where I want to be.
Right.
This is how I define myself.
That itself is it's all right.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. Oh, wait a minute. I got this.
Yeah,
What are you
right.
talking about?
Right. That's, I quote this many, many times. Again, Rav Elisha Shlitsky noticed this point that Vayeshiv Yaakov Beretz Mugavi Beretz Canaan. Yaakov's sort of settled, was settled with his life, and he just wanted to live peacefully in Eretz Canaan. Bikesh Yaakov leishev b'shalva. He wanted, like his descendant just said, okay, I've had enough. And he really had enough. His struggles were crazy with Esav and Lavan and Dinah and Shechem and everything, you name it, from all directions. So he said, okay, I made it through. Yaakov Shalem Ir Shechem. He came wholesome. He came back religious and complacent and good with Hashem. Now he wants to rest a little bit. He's over 100 years old, way over 100. He's had enough. Miyad kafatz alav ugzo shel Yosef. The worst challenge, the most difficult challenge, jumped upon him, and that's Yosef and the brother. It may not have had right to continue climbing. He may not have happened. Right. Satan had to come in and arrange another challenge for Yaakov to say, don't rest. You still have what to do. It's endless levels to climb. You can never take a rest. Chazal even say, Tzaddikim don't rest.
That's really scary.
Even the world to come. That's really scary. I don't know what that means because there's no Yetzer Hara, Yetzer Tov. Not sure what that means in the Olam Haba, but it's enough if we realize that in this world we can't rest. We can't just feel, we've done what we've done. We're at the level we want to be. We're comfortable. We're close with Hashem. That's the best we can do. I'm done. Never think that way. There's always more and more and more to grow. Same as Hashem is Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Hashem is eternal and no end to Hashem. That's how we can climb endless levels of holiness. It's always what to do better and do more.
You know, if I could say, in the spirit of the 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really, you have to look at other people, realizing that we all have that stuff. You know what I'm saying? You can't say, well, they're doing that, because you're doing the same thing. Because we're all confronted with this battle.
I mean, negative. You see negative things in other people. Yeah. Don't forget, you're also not at the top, right? There's always what to correct.
We all have what to.
Exactly. Right.
We're resting on our laurels.
Yeah. Right. So נמצא שהוא מושא באמת בתוך מלחמה חזקה, כי כל ענייני העולם, בין לטוב, בין לרע, הנה הם ניסיונות לאדם. Because everything that happens to us is really Hashem confronting us with challenges, testing us in any direction, ben tov, ben ra. Whether we're leading a comfortable life, a good life, whether a difficult life, it doesn't matter. In both ways, we're challenged. And the Reb Chaim Volozhin, the greatest student of the Gra, in his book on Pirkei Avos, Ruach Chaim, he has a commentary on Pirkei Avos, Ruach Chaim, he writes there that the nisyonos for the rich person are greater and more difficult than the ones for a poor person. Because the poor person doesn't have anything to lose but to pray to Hashem. He doesn't have anything else to do. That's what he can do. He's dependent on Hashem rescuing him, so he's always trying his best to get close to Hashem, so he should give him a better fortune. But a rich person could easily fall for the fact that he made his own fortune, he made his own money, he's in control of his life. Who needs Hashem? It's much more dangerous to be wealthy and rich than to be poor. Right.
So you even think that Hashem, you've done good. Hashem rewarded you.
Right.
It's so easy to feel, see, I'm doing good.
Right.
It's like the HR.
Right.
No, that's like that.
Right. It could be that you have a lot to correct, but Hashem isn't showing you this. He's making believe as if you're doing good so that you fall for it, that you're doing good. Right. Very, very complicated, the way Hashem works. It's tragedies we'll never understand.
In American law, there's a concept called entrapment.
Entrapment? Yeah.
Which means if the federal government plants the rayon into your mind to commit the crime,
yeah,
and then you commit the crime, you're not guilty. You were trapped.
Oh wow! Yeah,
They set you up so much.
The setup. You're not allowed to do that.
Wow.
In Western law.
Yeah, it makes
What
sense.
now is a little bit bordering with
Get a good lawyer. Get a good lawyer.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, but Hashem is allowed. Hashem is. He knows what he's doing. Right. Right. Yeah. Interesting. So any type of situation that occurs to a person is a nisayon. Ha'oni mitzad echad, ve'osho mitzad echad. Both to be poor or to be wealthy and rich are both nisyonos. Kinyan she'amar Shlomo in Mishlei, Shlomo said, "Penes ba v'chichashti ve'amarti mi Hashem, ufen yivaresh v'ganavti v'tafasti Shem Elokai." Mamishi, in one pasuk, Shlomo speaks about both directions. That he's afraid that if he becomes wealthy and rich, he may say, "Mi Hashem." Who's Hashem? I don't need him. Like finding the parking spot. Thank you, I don't need him anymore. You think you've done everything on your own. It's all Hashem gave you all the skills and success. On the other hand, Peni Varesh Veganavti. On the other hand, I may turn poor. I'm afraid of being a poor person, because then you may steal, or at least be dishonest in business, because you have You need it. It's a necessity for you to make more money. Otherwise, you fall, collapse. You don't have how to live. And then then Hashem catches me that I've done the wrong thing. So in both directions, rich or poor, the nisyonos. It's not that another person, you're looking at a different person that you say, that person has it easy. That person, it's easy to be religious. It's never true. Each person is challenged in a different way. Don't ever think the grass is greener in your neighbor's lawn. Hashalva mitzad echad, v'yisoy mitzad echad. Also, some people have a smooth life, more smooth life, not too many health problems, not too many chinuch problems, all kinds of things of that sort. So it may seem that their life is an easier life to fulfill, to worship Hashem. But again, their problem is the fact that it's so smooth. When it's going so smoothly, you don't feel your tefillah may be a very, as a matter of fact, way. You're not putting all your heart into your tefillah, pouring all your heart in, because you don't feel you need that much prayer because things are going well. But that's, of course, wrong. Because if you want to sustain your situation, you must pray very, very hard. And you're not praying for yourself only. You're praying for all the people, all the Jews in the world. All of mankind sometimes. So if you fall for it that your life is okay and comfortable and smooth, so you daven like, as a matter of fact, you mumble the words, but you're not really putting all your heart into it, and then you've fallen in this test. You flunked the test. Sion made you fall. There are people who have very difficult lives, whether it's from health problems, whether it's chinuch problems, whether it's monetary problems, they have very difficult isurim. He's confronted with war, with struggling back and forth, back and forth. It's always pulling him in different ways, different directions, and one always has to be strong to continue striving to become a better and better individual. And as we said, there are endless levels to keep on climbing. It's like a person who's in sports or working out for health reasons, or just or to be a very successful sportsman. So every day you need to work out. Otherwise, you're not making the best you can out of yourself. Those who are very, very deep in sports, they do hours and hours of working out every day.
Regress, even if you think you're staying the same.
Right. Exactly. Regress, exactly. It's the same idea. That's on the physical plane of things, and the spiritual is the same. You have to keep on working out spiritually, otherwise you regress. Right? Exactly. Keep on going hours and hours every day of spiritualism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate more on why if two individuals, one living in Eretz Israel and one living in Kutzbar, both are living their life Lishma, why should they have two different levels of life? Why one should be poor and one should be? I understand that if you're living in Israel and you're one of the Gadol Ador, people should look at you and not see a poor,
style of life.
But why in the Kutzbar would it be any different? If a person living his life Lishma,
yeah,
and he's there because he feels that's his topic, that's what he's supposed to be doing, to keep the Jewish people going, to keep the Jewish people together, to keep Yiddishkeit alive. Why should there be a difference in the reward in this world for that? Can you elaborate? I'm not clear why there should be a difference.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to say that You have to be poor in Chutz La'aretz. That's what I meant. But to live in a rich style of life, to use your money to live in a way that's luxurious and beautiful homes and beautiful cars, that's something that's unnecessary in Chutz La'aretz. Because what does that prove? We're not talking about the Gedolim of Chutz La'aretz. Maybe the Gedolim in Chutz La'aretz maybe they should be the same, even though they should be a role model to the people. But we're talking about the general laymen in Chutz La'aretz. There's no point in living a very luxurious style of life in Chutz La'aretz. What do you gain by that? Except for materialism per se. How does that how is that connected to spiritualism in any way? In Chutz La'aretz. Here, it's connected to the fact that we're settling the land, Yishuv Haaretz, making this land the land of milk and honey, making this land be on the highest standards of life. Imagine if the international how's it called? When they give scores, when they score the level of the standard of life. Imagine if Eretz Yisrael is number one in the world. That's tremendously huge Kiddush Hashem.
It's pretty high, and they have those kind of charts for happiness.
Yeah, right. For happiness, yeah.
Food is very, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Maybe be top 10 in the world.
And it's incredible considering most countries don't have the same pressure and enemies.
Struggles and enemies, right?
It's crazy. It's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
It's very, very high.
Dafka, because we have these challenges. Right.
Or for them.
Yeah, right.
In
Switzerland.
I know a lot of Olim, especially but everyone, even not Olim, when you rent here and it costs maybe more than your relative rent in say in America or buy. So you reminded it's a mitzvah here. In other words, no matter what, the same 1,000 shekel I'm making up for rent here, rent there. It's a mitzvah here. It's not a mitzvah there. It's
right. It's not a mitzvah, right. You know what? I can give you an actual halacha. You just reminded me, David. An actual halacha that proves this point. The Magen Avram in Tafrei Samech Chet in Shulchan Aruch says in Orach Chaim, he says that to make a Sudas Chanukas Habayis, the first meal you have as you enter a new home, in Eretz Yisrael is a mitzvah. In Chutz La'aretz, it's not. There's no mitzvahs Chanukas Habayis. You can have a party if you'd like, but you're not feeling mitzvah Chanukas Habayis. And that's so you are. So it shows you the difference, right? That shows you the difference. It's in Chutz La'aretz, just live a life that allows you to exist. But anything beyond that has no connection to spirituality, no connection to Hashem in any way. It's just because you're drawn to materialism. As in Eretz Yisrael, again, as Sandra said before, you have to make sure that that's your way of thinking, that your intentions are lishma, that you're doing this for the mitzvah purpose and not just to enjoy. If you're just enjoying physically, then you're in the exact same situation in Chutz La'aretz and Eretz Yisrael. But if you're doing it in order to express what it means to be an Oved Hashem and what it means to be building a country of the Jewish people, beautiful it should be, and what a high level and standard of life there should be, then it's all for the sake of a mitzvah. Then it's not materialism, it's spiritualism. That's the difference. Chutz La'aretz, it's almost like make believe that all of that is connected to spiritualism. It's not really true. There's a famous story which also shows you this difference by the Chafetz Chaim himself, Yisrael of Radin. Of course, he was humongous and huge on his level of tzaddikus and level of fulfilling every detail in halacha and writing all these books that everyone learns till today from. He's one of the greatest individuals we've ever had in the past 200 years. So there was some cardinal or someone important in the Goyish world, who decided he'd like to, he heard so much of the Jewish leader, Chafetz Chaim, wanted to meet the person, see who this person is, what is he all about. So he asked where he lives. So he told him in Radin, in a small town, small village in Poland. So he takes his chariot and horses and he starts the journey to meet the Chafetz Chaim. The chariot is all full of gold and jewelry and everything, beautiful. He comes to Radin, he sees this small town village with nothing really, nothing to look at, all grayish looking and all this. He said, okay, so I guess the people here are very poor, but if I get to the actual leader of the Jewish people in the entire world, I'll probably get to this huge castle, mansion. Okay, yes, where does the Chafetz Chaim live? Where does the Jewish leader live? They tell him, go right, left. Okay, he makes it there. He stands in front of this stingy-looking home, old-looking home, barely existing, almost about to fall apart into pieces. He knocks at the door. Chafetz Chaim was a short man, a short fellow, short person, yeah. Opens the door, he himself, no servants, no clerks, no doormen, no guards, nothing. He opens the door himself. He says, is this the home of the Jewish leader? So of course, Chafetz Chaim didn't like that definition. He says, I'm Yisrael Meir of Radin. He says, yeah, that's the name I was told. I was given. You're the. Tell me, I can't believe this. You're the most important person in the Jewish world, and this is how you live? Nothing, like all falling apart and all old looking. So he asked this noble person, are you going to spend a day or two in Radin? He says, yes. So he goes, and where are you going to stay for these 2 days? So he said, I found a motel here, something very simple, just for an overnight. So I'll be staying here. So he goes to him, so why are you staying in such a poor-looking motel? How is it possible? You have so much, you're so rich, so much money. You should be staying in a very luxurious hotel. So he goes, well, I'm here temporarily, just a day or two. That's what I could find in Radin. So the Chafetz Chaim says, I'm also here temporarily. My whole life is temporary.
Just passing through.
Yeah, passing through. That was his answer. So that's the point I'm trying to show. That in Chutz La'aretz, he's totally right. That we're there temporarily. We should never feel as if we're there to stay. And the person who builds this luxurious home, it doesn't show, it doesn't prove that they're there temporarily. It looks like they're there to stay. And that's why there's no mitzvah Chanukas Habayit there. Because it's no mitzvah to build a home there. It's a temporary passing by station. Pass by. But so if you just come like a rental, we don't do Chanukas Habayit for even in Israel. Because it's temporary, it's not yours yet. So in Chutz La'aretz, it's as if you're in a rental all your life. So who does up a rental? It's not yours. It's not something that is meant to stay there forever. So those who build big, nice, luxurious homes, they're almost like disbelieving in Mashiach, disbelieving in Geulah, disbelieving in...
Yaakov has a famous saying about that.
Oh, yeah? And what parsha? Which parsha?
Waste money in these fancy houses, and there's like no Jewish... I think the Yaakov says, quote him, there's no Jewish community that's either 3 or 4 generations old.
Wow.
It's Jordan giving to the Goyim, and the Jews get chased out. He says a line like that. Just wasting money, wasting time.
Yeah. It's scary also. It's scary. There's no continuation. One time it all falls apart. Yeah, right. Yes. Here's the place to build big, nice homes, because here we're here to stay. I wonder if the Chafetz Chaim would be living in Israel if he would make and assume that difference and live different in different styles. I'm not sure, but that's already hashkafic understanding of Atchat de Geulah, or are we still in the Galus?
Because where I lived in New York,
yeah,
in a place called Jamaica Estate.
Right.
There were some big houses.
Yeah, right.
There were some big houses. Big, like unbelievably big.
Wow.
And if I think of every one of the Rabbanim, there were several shuls, Young Israel shuls, and Shtivola in this area.
Yeah.
And I think of the contributions that the rabbis who lived in the community made to Klal Yisrael and the community at all. They all lived in very modest.
Oh yeah.
If you would go to any of their homes,
that's
you would
nice.
Say, that's where he lived in that house. When there's like these giant
mansions,
every one of them, it would be
that's nice.
Spotless. I mean, the exterior would be nicely groomed, didn't look disheveled. But when you would walk in, you'd think, this is the house of one of the
leaders that lead us.
Every one of them lived.
That's nice. That's
homes.
nice. That's a role model.
Compared to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Compared to the neighborhood. I mean, there were poor neighborhoods in New York.
Yeah.
But in this neighborhood, none of them lived
luxuriously.
I think personally, you weren't paying out enough money to buy one.
Exactly. The rabbis in America generally don't get paid as much as their balabatim.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Yeah. Sure.
So
You're saying that's my.
But I think what you're saying is exactly.
That's the default.
Exactly. That's true. I mean, what I'm just saying, what you're saying is actually true. When I think about every one of the community leaders, the Rabbanim from the neighborhood, when you think about that house, you think that's where so and so lives. It's very, very.
But I wonder, you have to ask these rabbis if they were making tons of money. Let's say they were making a lot of money, or they received the Yerusha from their parents or somewhere. Somehow they had a lot of money. They won the lottery. Would they then build a huge mansion like their Balabatim, or would they stay low key?
I think I feel it from. I mean, the ones that I knew, I would think they would stay low. First of all, the tuitions in America are very high. You're not going to become very rich if you have 4 or 5 children.
No, but let's say they had the money to build a beautiful mansion. Would they do so or not?
Most of them are like most good people. They're good people. They're Papinel Tochel. I mean, they don't want the mansion generally. Nicely, because most people, even in Chul, Chutzlaretz are good. They're the same Shemayim.
Yeah.
I mean, they're off because they live in Chul, but other
than right. Yeah, it doesn't make you a bad person if you have a nice home, but it's not what we're striving for.
I agree with you. Most of the Rabbanim I know in America, even though they all should live here, and there's no reason they shouldn't. They're not looking for a big mansion. It's just the nature of the life they chose, which is good.
Yeah. Okay, so they're serving as role models in that way.
Yeah, from the conversations that I've had with them, I always ask them, why, when are you moving to Israel?
Yeah, right.
They're leaders of the community. If they leave, what happens? Who raises the community? Who inspires the community?
Yeah, this is a big question.
To me, it's a very appropriate answer because you look at assimilation in America.
Yeah.
If the people with the right framework of mind to understand the continuity of the Jewish people and halacha and the importance of learning Torah, if they say, look, Eretz Yisrael is where I want to be, I'm just going to go. It's very selfish.
I look at it differently.
Yeah.
An example, a role model. Rabbi Riskin took his community here. He left.
Right.
He was the high.
Picked up and left and took everyone with him.
No question. Rabbi Riskin is a beautiful example.
Right.
Of who picked up but thinking of the community, knowing the community, and knowing the role that these Rabbanim play. Why just the whole institute of Yeshiva University.
Yeah.
And the number of people that they inspire, the thousands of students that they inspire.
Yeah, I agree. In general, you're right. But I think that we definitely see now, this is a shkafic issue now, but I'm saying we see in the recent years that Hashem has had enough with Chutzlaretz. Hashem doesn't want us there. We see it from every angle you look at it. So it used to be true that if Eretz Yisrael was dangerous to come to and very, very challenging from the point of view of just leading and existing in Israel, leading a normal life in Israel. But today, nowadays, Hashem is shining bright on Eretz Yisrael. We see so the success and the ability to live a comfortable life in Israel has become so possible and natural that Hashem is saying, okay, enough is enough. And then even for the sake of leading communities and keeping the continuity of the Jewish people there, keeping them religious and all that, there's a certain point where even that doesn't hold water anymore. Even that's not enough. Because after all, Hashem doesn't want us there. It's obvious.
100 years ago in Europe,
yeah,
in the 1920s,
yes,
it was, I'm guessing there were more serious yeshiva learning could be than America.
Uh-huh.
If you take Europe.
Yeah, definitely. No?
I think it was only 8,000. That's the numbers of yeshiva pre-World War II in Europe. 8,000 Talmidim. That's all they had.
Oh, is that right? I understand. Yeah. I was like before the Shoah, the European learning was like.
It's called two words: urban legend.
Oh, okay.
There was terrible poverty, and there was there was maximum 8,000 students in all the yeshivas throughout Europe.
Wow, that's it.
Wow, it's an urban legend that it was. Everybody was a tremendous ego.
I'm not jumping to that extent, but
yeah.
Huh?
Okay, but there were a lot of
Jews with only 8,000 Talmidim.
Wow.
That's all they were.
A full-time yeshiva,
but I
but
don't mean that. I'm not trying to say full-time. I've just been, I don't know, everyone seems to talk about
yeah, the religious world was strong.
Learning,
right.
Maybe not sitting in yeshiva, but the religious
atmosphere,
and learning Torah in general. I don't mean full-time students. I didn't mean that, but I meant just that.
Right. And what are you trying to prove?
No, I'm saying to David's point, he thinks America's going well, but you know what?
I'm not saying it's going well. I'm not saying it's going well. I'm just saying something has
to here. We want him here.
We need them,
yeah. I'm not saying it's going well. I'm just saying that the role that they play, I think, is still an essential role. I mean, there is a good point. A quick story. They say that when a person needs to go to the Mesilat, he has to run away.
Right.
And he has to stay there, otherwise his life is in danger.
Right.
So his rabbi
goes
there, right? Goes along. So maybe you know this, right? So it's the same thing when the Jews were outside of Eretz Yisrael, and there was no Eretz Yisrael to come to. There was no Mesilat Yesharim.
Right.
And the Jews were in Chutz Haaretz. Of course, Berachot went there to maintain them, to help them in Torah. But once a Kohen Gadol passed away, the man can leave the Mesilat.
Right.
Right. He decides, I'm doing pretty well here.
Yeah, he likes it there.
I like it here. I got good business. I've got a nice house.
Yeah. His rabbi doesn't have to stay.
The other rabbi doesn't have to stay anymore.
Right. Anymore.
Baruch was saying, now that you have it,
beautiful.
You have no reason to stay in the Chutz Haaretz.
So I'm no longer with you.
I'm out of here.
I'm out of here.
So I'm just saying that's your point.
Right. That's a nice comparison. I never heard that comparison.
You can come back now.
Right.
So don't stay in the urban.
Right.
Go out.
So that's what I'm saying. And now, I think the rabbi is just, first of all, they have to preach and talk about this. If not every Dvar Torah, but many Divrei Torah of theirs in Drashos on Friday night is not around this topic of getting up and leaving, then I think they're losing, they're not fulfilling their role properly.
No, I think the rabbi from the shul that I went to.
Yes.
Always you have to have a 5-year plan. You have to have a 5-year plan to go and make Aliyah. And
he said that. So after saying all that over and over again,
you have to have a
he
plan.
should be the one to lead. And lead them and come here. That's what I think they should 100%. Do. Okay.
And I think they all do. They understand.
Right.
The goal is to live in Eretz Yisrael. But somebody has to be there to inspire those who are on the fence.
Yeah.
But I hear
whatever. Yeah. It's not simple. It's not a simple question.
I'm sorry. It's a tangent. But I have a great school. I'm a little older than Rav. We went to the same elementary school for a few years. Not the same moments, but SAR.
Okay? Right. Yeah.
It's amazing. Riverdale is known as a very Zionistic community, and there are many reasons. But I have to say about the principals of SAR, who are at the sea of being in the hail of a Beit Sefer, a great school.
Right.
3 consecutively retired at not the oldest age and made Aliyah.
Right.
It's just amazing. It's like Rabbi Schwat, Rabbi Full, Joel Cohn. You know what I mean? They left at the top of their game. They could have stayed their jobs for another 10, 20 years.
Wow.
And it's just my sheet. I'm just pointing. It's a nice thing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll just finish 3-4 more lines to finish this page. ואם יהיה לבן חי, וינצח המלחמה מכל הצדדים, הוא יהיה האדם השלם אשר יזכה להידבק בבוראו. Meaning, if he will be a brave person and win the war from all sides, meaning again, whether it's going well for him or going difficult for him, both ways could be the Yetzer Hara and the Nisyonos, the challenges in front of him. And if he's able to overcome and defeat all challenges on his way, he will be the wholesome person. He will have this chus to cling to Hashem. Hashem will dwell within that person because he went through life struggling and winning all the battles. He will leave this world, which is like the corridor to the next world. Walk into the living room in the next world. To be enlightened in the bright light of life, which is in the world to come. The amount of times that he was able to defeat his Yetzer Hara and overcome temptations. He wasn't led by his temptations. Rather, he defeated them. He controlled himself. And he stayed away from anything that pulls you away from Hashem. He stayed away from them. He tried his best to cling to Hashem and to stay strongly religious and connected. That's how much he will be connected with Hashem. His relationship with Hashem will be strong and he will be happy. He will be a happy person. That's what it's meant for us to reach, and hopefully we'll keep on striving higher and higher. Okay, go to our Berachot session. And again, reminding everyone, whoever needs to leave early, that this is our last year before we go on a short vacation of a month. The month of Av, actually. The month of Av will be off. So as of this next Sunday is Gimel Av. We begin our vacation, and Aleph Elul, we come back. Aleph Elul is on a Sunday. So that Sunday we come back. So it's exactly a month off for a little bit vacation. Okay. So in the chapter, we're in the midst of the section that's already discussing the actual Birkos Hanehenin. Okay, where were we? We said a person who can't taste. Yeah, we did already. He's not enjoying in his palate the taste itself, but he's definitely filling up or quenching his thirst, even though he doesn't taste the food. Does he have to say a bracha or not? So Shlomo Zalman said that he's not sure, Mesukani. He's not sure whether he should say a bracha or not. He said that he heard that the minhag is to say a bracha. Even a person who doesn't taste can say a bracha. That's the minhag.
I'm referring to the case of somebody sick, let's say, like unhealthy, like maybe a bad flu or something.
Right.
But the minhag would be
or a person who lost their sense of taste totally. Right. But even just temporary, yeah.
So you would say,
right. He wasn't sure about the halachic decision here, but it seems like yes, because that's the minhag. The custom is for them to say a bracha anyhow, right? For smelling, we don't say that. If you can't smell because of a bad flu, cold, the nose is stuffed, you can't smell, then you cannot say Barim and Ebisamim. By Havdalah, you need to give it to someone else to say before you continue with Morei Ha'esh and Abavdin, right? Someone else says it for you. Okay. Here. So we're up to the next point. Shachach v'echnis mashkin letoch piv. A person who forgot to say a bracha and put some food in his mouth or drink into his mouth, what does he do then? Forgot the bracha. So the Shulchan Aruch says, Shachach v'echnis mashkin letoch piv belo bracha bol'an ve'ino mevarech aleihem bracha rishona. Different than solid food is drink, because solid food, if you put into your mouth without saying, forgot to say a bracha, you should, if you're in a place where no one's around, people are around, you can't do this. But if you're alone, or maybe very close family there, you should spit it out, say the bracha, and put it back into your mouth, and then swallow it. Because at that point, you haven't swallowed it yet. You can still say the bracha, and if it's not disgusting, people around, it's disgusting to do such a thing, so it's worse to disgust others than to say a bracha. Although, even when it's in your mouth and you can't take it out because of people being around, there's a way to say the bracha while having it in your mouth, and that is to put it to the side of your mouth as best as you can, push it to the side of your mouth, and say the bracha while it's in your mouth. You can do that too before you swallow. It's also okay. Although we said, your mouth should be empty of anything while you say a bracha, but in this case, you have no choice. It's better to say the bracha with the food in your mouth than not to say bracha at all before you swallow the food. So that's how you should do. By drink, you can't spit it out. The Mishnah Berurah says, "Yefshar lefoltan mishum demem isei umifsedei." He said, the Mishnah Berurah says that by drink, by a liquid, if you spit it out and then say a bracha and drink it back, take it back to drink, it's disgusting even for yourself. Even you can't spit it out and drink it back again. That's what they say. It's mimasei umifsedei. It becomes disgusting, it becomes inedible. So by drink, Chazal allowed you to swallow the drink without saying a bracha even. Of course, the next bit you want to drink, you say a bracha for, but that bit that you took into your mouth already, you swallow without saying a bracha. I'm not sure why wouldn't we say that you should try to say a bracha while it's in your mouth. Maybe because since we had to actually move our lips, we can't just think the words of the bracha, then it's going to fall out. Right. As you move your mouth, as you say the bracha, it's all going to fall out. So there's no way to push it to the side, sort of speaking, and say the bracha. It's a fluid. It goes all over the place.
There's never a situation where after you've eaten, whether it's solid or liquid, you forgot to say the blessing that you would then say it afterwards?
No, never. For a before blessing, you can't say it afterwards. No. The after blessing, of course, yes, but not the before. Yeah. Okay. Now, Shlomo Zalman elaborates over this and says the following: Im biyom ta'anit shachach v'chnis ma'achal o mashke letoch piv v'nizkar shu yom tzom v'ta'anit. Let's say they forgot. Someone forgot it's a fast day. Totally forgot. They're used to a regular routine of eating and drinking at a certain hour in the daytime, and they start eating without remembering that it's a fast day. Tzarich lefolto v'lo yitiru leochlo mishum ifsed. He says then he has to spit it out. The moment he remembers that it's a fast day, he has to spit it out. Even though he's now sort of wasting the food because it can't be eaten after he spits it out, or the drink or the liquid, he can't swallow it.
So that fact that it's Hafsed is putting Baal Tashchit against.
Exactly.
That's what it seems to be.
First of all, against
on the other, in the case of swallowing a liquid.
so liquid, right?
But
right.
you shouldn't eat.
Right, exactly. On a regular day where you're allowed to swallow what you've taken in, so for liquid, we say swallow it because of Baal Tashchit. We're more concerned of Baal Tashchit than we are of drinking without a bracha. And so you can't spit it out because it will go to waste. And we swallow it without saying a bracha. So we're more concerned about Tashchit than drinking without a bracha. On a fast day, we're more concerned to not break the fast. Breaking of the fast is worse than Baal Tashchit. And another point here, if this is the first bit that the person took into their mouth, they said a bracha. Then most probably, it's not a case where you forgot to say the bracha. You remembered to say a bracha, you forgot it's a fast day. So now you're causing by spitting it out, not saying, you're going to say bracha vatala and Baal Tashchit. Both.
It's interesting because most fasts are not d'oraita.
Right.
So like if you start putting things against each other.
So bracha vatala
Doesn't add up. Baal Tashchit is one of the taryag. We always talk about it's a straight up mitzvah.
I'm not sure it says lo tashchit et yitzay no chalav garzen, but that literally means not to chop trees with but mainly it also is talking about in wartime. In wartime, when you're about to doing a siege around a city, then don't chop down the trees around that town. That's what it's talking about specifically. Chazal learn out from this that anything that you ruin, why shouldn't you chop down trees? Because you're just ruining for the sake of ruining. It's not helping you in any way. If it's going to be a matter of pikol nefesh, because if you don't chop down those trees, then the enemy will beat you in the war, and you need this to beat the enemy, then you're allowed. Even fruit trees. But if it's nothing to do with that, it's just you want to cause harm and destruction to your enemy, that's not allowed. To be still aware and careful of Baal Tashchit. So we learn from this in general. Not to be.
It's interesting. We have Baal Tashchit, we have Shem Hashem L'Shav.
Right.
We have the Tanit. Like if you add them up, it doesn't seem that it's equating the righteous against their abundance exactly.
Yeah, you're right. Very interesting. Why did the Tanit issue take precedence over everything else? More powerful than all the rest of the issues involved.
I'm not so l'chumra.
Yeah.
In this situation, I honestly believe historically that you should spit it out and you shouldn't swallow against the rabbis according to halacha. And what is the reason why I'm saying that? Because when this halacha was written, and in this context, we have to remember that they viewed an egg, for example, as a dvar ibud. That there are many halachas that if you lose something that's worth a lot of money, the halacha treats it differently. Something.
Hefsin Rube.
They viewed an egg in this time. They viewed Shegod Chubot that viewed an egg as something important, something of chashivus.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I can show you.
You see that? Wow.
So because the poverty was so bad, so because we're living in such a different world, to call something like that that you should swallow, and the reason being because of you're afraid of being over balatach. It doesn't go with today's society. Look at anyone's plate, anyone's dinner table, when they leave a restaurant, they leave a hotel, they leave anything, what's left over on our plates on
yes, day, humongous
amounts. Can't say that with a straight face. It's in a time when society said that they went like this with pilpul because of a value of an egg because poverty was so bad, and they try to find heterim. Wow. Same thing with this.
Wow, never.
This is giving obviously
that's a good point.
Historical, social, sociological, but it's emes. So what's the difference? That's just my opinion. You can't.
Yeah. So you're saying about fluids, because anyway, solids we said that you are able to spit it out and then eat it back again, but the fluids.
There's no
yeah. Question is.
It's not topless.
Question is, do we see Baal Tashchit as something relative, subjective in some way, or is it objectively wrong to waste food? Now you say that in hotels and restaurants we leave over so much food and get thrown in the garbage.
Even your children at home.
Right. Although fathers usually eat up what the children sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's good food. Give
Yeah,
up.
right, right.
Exactly. Trust me, I know. I'm just saying. It's the way it is. It's so different.
No, but it's David's point. Maybe the issue with swallowing a liquid is that because they had so little, better swallow it than like.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, that's what he's saying. That in those days, they didn't have enough.
No, but it wasn't as much as not baltashted as much as survival. I'm looking at it. Yeah.
There's no money.
Sort of, yeah, it's like.
Yeah.
It's tamei mitzvah.
But also the issue
right.
of you said in case of Shem Hashem Shab, how does that work? What did we say? We said that
Even bracha batala, we don't and a tanit, right?
Yeah.
We don't care for because it's more important to remain fasting.
The fact is just not just the right to their abundance going on.
Right. Right now, he's going to discuss exactly that. Exactly David's question of weighing. How do we weigh what's more important, less important? So we'll see on. It's a good point, David Levine's point here, that maybe we don't consider the same level of hefsed as it was in those days. Interesting, because it's after all Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Berurah. It's hard to go against them and say that we shouldn't swallow.
Poverty was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Can't.
We just spoke of the Mishnah Berurah, the Chavetz Chaim living in Radin in very poor circumstances.
There was a story, I forget where I think Rav Chaim Ozer gave someone $100 for a yeshiva, and a rich American gave him. He said, "This $100 bill fed the yeshiva for 2 months."
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Maybe it's Achlan Vassan's yeshiva, something like that. This is you can't even believe. This is
right.
90, 100 years ago. Not about 1,000 years ago.
Wow.
$100 American bill fed the yeshiva for 2 months. Story. I can't take my family out for dinner for that now. I'm saying it's just you can't.
Right.
It's not fair to
compare our life to their life. So you're saying today, it's a good point. You should spit it out, and even if it gets wasted, if it's wasted, nothing gets wasted. Yeah.
You wouldn't think twice.
Right. It wastes so much under other circumstances.
That was a kid about waste.
Most liquids, right? Most downfalls of liquids are crucial.
Right.
Like it's interesting. So even money-wise, like it's like easier to put.
That's the question. Do we look at it that way of how much it's worth and how much we anyway waste, or the actual action of wasting is wrong? Right. Doesn't matter how much. Din putake din me'ah, we know. You know, Chazal, that we don't waste a penny, same as we don't waste 100 pennies. It's no different. We're not supposed to waste. But the problem is that the style of life we lead today, we anyway waste so much, so it's a little bit hypocritical to say that.
Because right. Up against other mitzvot too. If it was just itself.
Right, of course. But time to waste is no.
Right, but it's
here it's up against Beracha Batala or drinking without saying a bracha. Right, if you put it into your mouth and you forgot to say a bracha. Right, Kidu Ma'al, right. Very bad. But if he tells us don't waste, he's really telling us
it's not stealing in this case.
It's not stealing in this case, right? I'm mochel on the Gzela, right? I don't know what to say. Interesting to check in Hufayin Betzi Falef if the Piskei Teshuvos or someone of a more modern.
It has to be modern. It has to be.
Yeah. It's very modern. Very modern. Actually now, right? Nebech Misken. Yeah, Yiddish. Nebech. Yeah. Okay. Now, says as Shlomo Zalman, how come by eating without a bracha or drinking without a bracha, we say better you swallow without saying the bracha, if otherwise it goes to waste, because wasting something is worse than drinking without a bracha. We push aside the fact that you're drinking without a bracha, and we decide don't waste. Whereas by tainis, even if it's only rabbinically necessary to fast. Why is a fast day stronger? It's not your question. Why is it stronger than eating without than saying bracha batala? It's the opposite. You spit it out. You say bracha batala.
Even if you didn't say the bracha, but you recognize in your mind you have a that you understand. You're appreciative of what you're eating. You realize, well, it's already in my mouth. Forgot to say a bracha.
Yeah.
So they say, all right, but you're already in your mind. You're already thinking of course. You already recognize.
Yeah, I get that.
With the fast, you recognize that today's a fast day. I'm not supposed to eat, and then you still swallow.
And then you still swallow. It's contradictory.
That's contradictory. In the first one, at least you have the mindset. That you have a sense of appreciation. Of course, Berachot understands your mindset. That's not, it's not insignificant, your mindset.
Yeah, and he doesn't want you to waste, so he's telling you,
okay,
as long as you have the mindset, then it's enough. That's a good point.
It's
similar to what they say before, the Mechila.
It's preferable to articulate the Beracha because he gave us the ability to speak.
Right.
But because he gave us that extra ability. But if you didn't have the ability to speak, let's say you didn't have the ability to speak, would you not have any obligation to even think about a bracha?
Yeah, probably yes. Although he will have kidibur dami. We don't count thinking of the bracha as if you bless.
As a first option.
Right. True, but the Rambam holds that he'll kidibur dami by bracha. Rambam holds that it's enough to think the bracha in general, not only in these complicated situations. Even in general, he holds it's enough to verbalize it. We don't hold like the Rambam. Didn't rely on this Rambam. But you're right. If you're unable to, then at least think the bracha needs to be yotze by the Rambam. Right. So what's the answer? Exactly what they were saying now. Those people who can't say a bracha, they don't have the obligation to say a bracha. They can eat without a bracha, like onen, person who just lost a close family member until they're buried, or ilem, person who's dumb, who can't speak. Now that you put the drink into your mouth, you forgot to say a bracha, and you can't physically say it because it's going to spill out. And we said then it's going to be wasted. So you have no choice but to swallow it. Hashem sort of takes away the obligation to, you could say even further what David was saying before. At least you can think the bracha in your mind, and that's as if you're completing the necessity of saying a bracha, the obligation of saying a bracha. Tainis, either you've broken the tainis or you haven't. Or to swallow, you've broken the tainis. That's exactly your point. Exactly, that's what he's saying. Right. Okay. Now he comes in and adds David Levine's point. Omnam. Even the situation where you've put by mistake a drink into your mouth without saying a bracha. Yes, Shomrim, there are those who hold, Shimeino dachuk lemashkin. If it's not a necessity for you to drink that amount of beverage, whatever it is, water or any other drink, iflot velo yachush le'efsed mashkin. There is an opinion like that holds that if you're not desperate for that water, you're not terribly thirsty, spit it out. You may not be able to drink it afterwards, spit it out, and not drink without a bracha. So there is such an opinion. So the Mishnah Berurah probably quotes this other opinion as well. So it's definitely something that they weigh, poskim weigh, which is more important, to drink without a bracha or to waste the drink. It depends, I guess, how desperate you are to have this drink. If you're not desperate, better spit it out. So in the end, the final conclusion is like David said before, according to some opinions at least, it's better yet not to drink without a bracha. Okay. And one last point, that the Magen Avraham actually differentiates between Deraita and Derabbanan. Im ksheyochal yavo al isur Deraita lo yochal afilo me'at. Arin ze kochach b'isur Derabbanan yochal me'at kedi shebachar levatala. Actually, exactly David Bart's point, that the Magen Avraham holds that it all depends on the level of what you're breaking if you drink or don't drink. If you're breaking a rabbinic prohibition, then break a rabbinic prohibition, then drink it or eat it, even on a fast day. This is talking about a fast day. If you by mistake set a bracha, put some food into your mouth, and before swallowing, you suddenly remembered, oops, this is a fast day, then the Magen Avraham would tell you, swallow a drop of it. Swallow a drop so that the bracha will not be levatala, and you're only breaking a rabbinic prohibition by eating on a fast day that's rabbinic. If it's Yom Kippur, then no. And of course not. Yom Kippur, don't even swallow a drop of it because you're breaking a Deraita level fast. But if it's a rabbinic fast versus bracha levatala is more important to take care of.
That situation you say on Nenu?
Yes, because you've only did a drop. You're still considered, that's in the shear, it's still considered fasting, yes. That's what we'll say on Nenu, yeah.
The concept of there's a shear, tasting food, you normally don't make a bracha for just tasting food, is that correct?
That's correct. Even if you're swallowing it. Definitely if you taste and spit it out, no bracha. That's according to all poskim. But Phil Malka, in a different book of his, he holds that even if you're tasting and swallowing it, if your whole intention is just to taste, you don't say a bracha.
Would that make you fleishish? Sorry for interrupting. Would that make you fleishish? My wife's tasting the chicken soup to see if it needs more salt.
Yeah, if she swallows, yes. If she spits it out, no. Because swallowing leaves the flavor in you.
Even if the shear is so tiny where it's
just a taste? Yeah, we don't differentiate between shiuri by fleishik milchik. We differentiate for bracha achrona or for breaking the fast, but not for milchik fleishik.
We wouldn't differentiate between chicken and real fleishiks?
No, we don't hold it.
We live in the Galil?
What's it? You say
yeah.
You make a differentiation for breaking the fast. So if you tasted food, would you break the fast? Would it be breaking the fast by just tasting the food?
In general, just tasting the food. Since there's no bracha, right. So it's as if you're not eating.
That's the question.
Yeah, that's the question.
No bracha.
Right.
So I could understand you'd be more strict on Yom Kippur.
Right.
Before than Tisha B'Av. But is that true?
Is that true? Could you only taste food? The answer is no, but I don't know why. The answer is you can't even taste food. Why is there a difference between that and a bracha per se? Saying a bracha on food, if only tasting doesn't require a bracha, why would that mean breaking the fast? I think the answer is, after all, even though your intent was not to fill up on this food, rather just to taste it, after all, you're filling up. After all, there's something in your stomach now that's making you more comfortable. And that's the whole point of a fasting, not to feel comfortable, to feel hungry. And then this made you a little bit less hungry. So for a fast day, it's not allowed.
Once I was in the supermarket, I think it might have been Tisha B'Av.
Yeah.
I was shopping for food for the end of to break the fast.
Right.
And I was supposed to buy one of the, either it was parsley or I was supposed to buy one of the mint. I wasn't sure which one this was. So the question was, could I taste the leaf?
Leaf.
The leaf. Would that be violating the fast? So that was the question. I wasn't sure.
That's interesting.
But
you don't swallow the leaf, you just suck.
Swallow it, but
you just suck it.
You're tasting it.
Yeah, you're tasting it.
It's only a leaf. A small
yeah,
leaf.
most probably that should be okay because there's nothing there. It's minuscule. How do you say that? Minuscule. much minuscule. But yeah, I know it's really nothing. So that should be okay. Yeah. You can't consider that filling up at all. Like nothing that fills you in this case. You're just sucking on a leaf.
In your mouth. If it's mint.
You can speak about gum. How about chewing gum? On a fast day, you're allowed to chew gum. That's a similar thing.
I wouldn't think so.
You wouldn't think so, right? Why? Because after all, some sugar. You're swallowing some sugar into your body.
It generates saliva.
Right, but it's the same difference. A leaf like that is only like chewing gum. It's just getting the taste of it, but no substance. You're not swallowing any substance. It's only the taste of it. I don't know. It's an in-between case. I'm not sure what the... Yeah. No, but tasting actual food and swallowing it, that's definitely not allowed. No question. Because then you're satiating yourself, even a drop. On the fasting.
But on a fasting, you can't take something, chew it up, and spit it out. That can't be.
On a fast day?
Yeah, on a fast.
On a fast day, if you chew and spit it out, then there's definitely no bracha. No bracha in that case. Is that considered breaking the fast? Why? After all, there's nothing that goes down to your stomach. It's just the taste of it. It's nothing.
You get absorption through your cheek wall, tongue, and everything. You get a lot of absorption.
Yeah, but it's not a lot of it. It's a minuscule amount that goes down to your stomach. I don't know. This is a good question. I would also think not, but I'm not sure why not. It's really nothing. You can say broken fast, but believe that I have to check that one for you. In any case, just let's finish this the footnote we were at. So the Magen Avraham holds, unlike Reb Shlomo Zalman, which is based on Mishnah Berurah, who holds that you mustn't, if by mistake you put food into your mouth and even said a bracha, you mustn't swallow even a drop of it. More important to remain fasting than to cover up for a bracha batala or wasting your food. That's how the Shlomo Zalman said. Magen Avraham says the opposite. If it's only a rabbinic fast day, like most of the fast days are, except for in Kippur, it's only rabbinic, then swallow a little bit of the food because bracha batala is worse. Bracha batala is worse than breaking the fast. Not if it's a rabbinic fasting, not if it's a deraita fast. Avadat shara poskim, except for the Magen Avraham, all of the poskim hold shasu lechol afilim v'zekau chak b'isur derabanan. All of the poskim hold you mustn't swallow even a drop of the food you've said a bracha over, even if it's a rabbinic fast. You mustn't. Breaking the fast is worse than both bracha batala and wasting the food. And why is that? So the Marsham explained, because bracha batala over ala b'shev ve'altas, mashenkin im yochal over ala b'kum ve'aseh. That's the difference. If you haven't swallowed yet, and just in order to refrain from bracha batala, you want to swallow, then if you don't swallow, you're over on bracha batala b'shev ve'altas. By doing nothing, you're violating this prohibition of not saying bracha batala by doing nothing. That's easier than actually swallowing and breaking a fast. That's kum ve'aseh. You're not considered breaking the fast, but you consider doing an isser of eating on the fast. Why? Chatzi shiur asur min haTorah. The moment you have a shear of something and you're only having a little bit of it, not a full shear, it's still prohibited, asur min haTorah, even though it's not breaking. Even by Yisur D'Rabbanan, there's chatzi shiur asur min D'Rabbanan. Same as we have a shear for an Yisur D'Rabbanan, we have less than the shear, it's still prohibited, but it's not breaking the fast. The difference between breaking the fast and prohibited to do it. You're not allowed to do so, but you're not breaking the fast if you do so. Otherwise, we would all eat just small amounts all during a fast day. We don't follow the fast. Okay, but now you're swallowing on purpose.
Because I'm saying bracha levatala.
So he says, so the Marsham is explaining what majority of poskim hold. That bracha levatala is shev al taseh. By refraining from doing something, you're causing bracha levatala, which is less of a problem than by actually doing an action of swallowing, which breaks the fast. Doesn't break the fast. It goes against. It's prohibited on a fast day. You're doing bikum b'aseh. You're doing something actively against Allah. Right. Correct. Because you're active. There's a difference between being passive and doing something wrong or active and doing something wrong. It's worse to doing something actively wrong than passively wrong. That's the difference. Okay. So we'll stop at this. Have a Shavua Tov and a nice month of Av, which turns out to be August this year, sort of similar times. So Zat Hashem, we'll see each other in 4 weeks. The beginning of Elul, I'll send out a message before we resume our learning to remind people. Okay, Kol Tov, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
To you, very welcome. Kol Tov, bye-bye.